We will open the ordinary meeting for the 26th of October of 2022 and welcome everybody. Today, Councillor Foreman is going to give the acknowledgement of country.
May I firstly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on today. I humbly pay my respects to the people of the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal nations, their past, present and emerging elders.
Thank you, Councillor. Bit of housekeeping. If you're asked to evacuate, the emergency procedure is to exit via the door leading out of the building directly outside the council chambers and proceed to the footpath opposite the council chambers and await further instructions. This council meeting is being streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with the council's live streaming in council meetings policy. We don't have any in the gallery today, but I will reiterate that for anybody who is present in the gallery, by attending a public meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. And anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. The chair and or the general manager have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. Public forum, we have nobody in the public forum today. So we will proceed to the statement of ethical obligations. Yeah. Councillors are reminded that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of Hilltops local government area and the Hilltops Council, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment as per their oath or affirmation of office made under section 233A of the Local Government Act of 1993. For attendance, apologies and applications for leave. We have one application for leave from Councillor Stadmiller for personal reasons. We were notified on the 24th and it was clarified on the 25th, and the leave of absence, the application is for 2 months, which takes in 3 of our council meetings, the October, the November and the December 14th meeting. Do I have a motion to accept? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Piper. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I know I'm going to be out of order, but I would like to take this opportunity to put on notice and praise the outdoor staff at Burrawa for their extreme good reactions over the weekend with the flooding we've had there and how quickly they got out and stopped people driving over very bad areas and doing everything right. I'd just like to put on notice that they did a very, very good job.
Thank you, Councillor Piper. I'm sure that might be reiterated further in the meeting.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Councillor Mackie has her hand up. Is that intentional, Councillor Mackie?
No, I don't even know how it got up.
Thank you.
Magic.
All right, councillors, may I ask you to stand for sympathy of expressions?
Sorry, Councillor, this is to accept the attendance by digital means for Councillor Mackie.
Oh, pardon me. Councillor Mackie, yes, is attending by a video link. And do I have a mover to accept that? Thank you, Councillor Dodd, and a seconder. Councillor Flannery. Those in favour? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Sympathy expressions. Councillors, if we'd like to stand. And a minute's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of the following: Alfonso Font Guerrero, Soraya Silk, Elsie Foster, Kevin Cross, Bonnie Maloney, Robert Barling, Sister Roberta Robinson, William Kemp, Ronald Snedden, Pamela Powderly, Sue Frankham, Douglas Palmer, Jeannie McDonald, Graham Ogilvie, Jamie Patterson, Peter Devick, Ronald Sinclair, John Oliver, Lawrence Stevenson, Brian Maroney, Nathan Thompson, John Dalton, Sandra Forbes, Rosaline Adler. Thank you, councillors. If we move on to 6, the confirmation of the minutes. Do I have of the ordinary meeting on the 28th of September 2022? Do I have a mover? Who was it? Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder? Councillor Hewson. Any questions? All right, those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Do we have any disclosures of interest today? No? All right, we'll move on to the mayoral minute. Do I have a mover to accept the mayoral minute?
There's no mayoral minute, mayoral minute.
Oh, pardon me. No mayoral minute, the mayoral report. It's there in front of you. I think it includes most of my activities. Do I have a mover?
Moved with a question.
Yes. Councillor Ingram.
Seconder.
Yep, seconder.
Just in regard to, you've been busy, Madam Mayor, I can see that, Kath. Just in relation to the 19th of October and the NAIDOC celebrations. I'm a bit interested in that item, just to know what the award was for.
The award is a cultural award.
Yep.
For a young Indigenous person who has contributed to the community, especially in a cultural manner.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes,
Who received it?
Naya Freeman, who has done extraordinary work within the community and the schools.
Oh, no, that's
He
great.
certainly has.
That's great. What was the actual
Yes.
award?
The award was an award, and also it will be a $500 award, but it will be given for to pursue a cultural education or money to put forward to even travel to go to a cultural
Oh, that's great.
award.
Who actually sponsored the award?
I have sponsored the award.
Personally?
Yes.
Oh, look, I'd like to commend you, Madam Mayor, for sponsoring an award like this out of your own personal back pocket. I think that's very commendable. And
It's my pleasure. I see it as an important part of our community, and one way that we can show our support for the Indigenous community within our hilltops.
I totally agree, and I said I commend you for dipping into your own personal back pocket to fund the award.
Thank you. Maybe in future we'll look at making it an award for Hilltops, but for the money.
Thank you.
That's how it has happened.
Madam Mayor, just a quick question following off from that. The Commonwealth makes available on an annual basis, providing COVID doesn't knock in the head, some grants between $200 and $1,000, I think it is, for NAIDOC week celebrations. I was just wondering whether council had made application for that grant. And certainly if they haven't done, I know that the former Young Shire used to make application for an annual basis. If it has, Hilltops hasn't done, then I suggest we should be doing so to enable that those funds will be used for the appropriate purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. I think that is most appropriate, and we'll certainly look into that. I know there was some grant funding for NAIDOC. Am I right in thinking that?
There was.
GM?
I'm not sure what the amount was.
Yeah, but we certainly will look at that for the future.
I believe we did in relation to NAIDOC.
Yes, to put on the event.
I'll clarify that, but
Two questions, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
in relation to your diary. Meeting with the Minister for Local Government, Minister Tuckerman. Did you have the opportunity to discuss road funding in the state of roads? And following that, a question regarding meeting with the Southwest Rural Fire Service. If you could provide details of the two meetings, please.
I certainly can. The first meeting, it was an informal meeting at Burra. I think Councillor Tuckman was meeting with us as representative for part of this Hilltops. She's very aware of the stresses on our roads and indicated, and it actually has come through, hasn't it? And we were told at the local government conference that we've just attended that there will be money for potholes, but she was very aware that the state will have to put money into the regional roads. The big question that was put forward too, not the big question, but the question was actually when to give the funding. Do you give it now when the extreme weather events perhaps haven't finished, or do we wait? Well, if you're a cynic, you might say that, but or are they holding off a bit? But Sam Farraway.
yes, look, Sam Farraway, the Minister for looks after roads, he announced $50 million for 90 regional councils, of which Hilltops is one, based upon road length. So we're not aware of what the amount we are receiving, but that's been an announcement, and I know that's been propagated by the various state ministers in our area. So there is some money there, specifically for potholes. I understand we have up to 2 weeks to notify that we accept or apply, whatever that amount is, and then we'll have, I believe it's up to a year to spend it, and that's because of the weather.
The meeting with the Southwest RFS were their quarterly meetings. There wasn't really any news to report. There had been some burning off in areas. I thought it was interesting to note that there was talk of a mowing crew being based out of Cunningar to help with keeping down the grass especially around the villages, which I found of great interest, especially when trying to control grass in any predicament. There was quite a bit of talk about new technology that is coming in and being used, especially the use of drones, and that was of interest, I think, to everybody. Otherwise, it was really business as usual, I suppose.
And the talk of mowing, so was it talk of mowing or money or budget? Sorry. the talk of mowing, was it talk of mowing, or is there budgeted money allocated? And perhaps I was going to address it later in the meeting, but the entire length of Campbellfields Road has been slashed with an excavator and mower, following it being partially burnt about 3 weeks ago. And there's signs up saying it's a fire break. Have you been made aware of that and where the money's coming from that and what the cost is?
I know. I can actually, if you like, I can give you a report of what happened at the meetings. But I do know that they have been slashing and putting fire breaks. They have a plan for around certain villages and in certain areas, which they see as the main way to control fires. And it is, as far as I know, it has been budgeted for and it is part of their budget, and that's what they're doing.
Could we have details of that report circulated, either the budget via email, please?
Yes, and I can certainly find out from the RFS too.
Madam Mayor, just
do
one
that.
other question in regard to the New South Wales Local Government New South Wales Conference. Council had a number of items that were brought forward to that conference. I was wondering how they went.
Well, they were all passed without dissent, so it meant that they went straight through. We only had one this time, Councillor Ingram, and yours went through.
The Mayor has some problems between determining whether Ingram and Armstrong.
It's still happening again.
The two good-looking
I'm
ones.
sorry. There's an ongoing issue.
Look, I apologise. I do. I would take it as a compliment. The two of you are so proficient that I do get you.
I have done so.
But it was passed without dissent. At the next meeting, we only got back from the conference yesterday, so at the next meeting, I'm sure Councillor Fitzgerald and I will be able to put together a report on the conference. And also, I might suggest, I think I will put together one for the CRJO meeting, because it was of interest, and I felt quite collaborative with the ministers who were there, including the Premier. They listened to our concerns, including the Red Fleet, except for maybe the Deputy Premier. But I think it was a very worthwhile meeting that we had.
On that matter, now that you mentioned CRJO, Madam Mayor, in that report, could you bring to Council any actual tangible benefits that Hilltops Council has gained or acquired since being a member of the CRJO? Actually, any benefit at all, if there's any that can be found, just going on past experience. Well, it's great, and it was hyped as a bigger group of councils and more weight pulling and sharing and available to bundle resources. And on top of that, we talked about matters water for Burrawa and how that would be highlighted with the CRJO, and the push would be bigger. I'd just like to know if there's actually been any benefit to Hilltops Council, and definitely any tangible benefits that can be shown from our membership since it started.
I'm sure, Councillor Ingham, I think we can put together a report for you.
Just one final question.
Yes.
Look, I'm not deeply offended, but I am offended. The Kite Festival, I noticed you attended a dinner, and I think Councillor Fitzgerald and I are also office bearers to that, for want of a better way of putting it, or representatives. Was it a good dinner? Sorry I missed it. I can't remember seeing my invitation.
Well, I received an invitation, so I went. I do not know how the invitations were sent out. Look, it was very informal. It was really a dinner to welcome the kite flyers who were there, the group of kite flyers. Michael, you might know his last name. He's been involved with the festival, I think, almost from the beginning. He made a really salient point, I think, saying that the Kite Festival has kept going in part because of the support that has been given to it by first of all Harden Council and now Hilltops. His point was that many volunteer groups who run festivals suffer volunteer fatigue, and it's the festivals that have the support of the councils that get them through that fatigue, that continue on. And I think this year we've certainly seen that both with the Woolfest and also with the Kite Festival. And I would say coming out of both those festivals, there are some younger volunteers who have renewed enthusiasm for the festivals.
I support that. I'm just sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, do I have a mover? Thank you.
We just put a mover and second.
We have Ingram and Flannery.
That's correct.
So Councillor Armstrong, I will ask you next time. Put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving to 10, councillor reports. They're there in front of you. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Fitzgerald. Thank you. If I go around the table, Councillor Flannery, do you wish to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Meetings as minuted. Borough Woolfest, although it was very brief, but it was a huge crowd. Kite Festival and a couple of meetings with constituents.
And before you go on, can I say, Councillor Flannery, that I think the committee was really impressed with the way that you helped selling kites. You must have made
I was
mega
very
deals.
impressed with the actual kite. Well, firstly, congratulations to the committee who organised the construction of the facility there, because without it, Kite Festival probably would have been a disaster. And I don't mean to cast any aspersions on the committee, but it was horrendous weather. And but for the new state-of-the-art building, most of the kids are inside making their own kites. And you know, I had a bit of a chat to Pat O'Connor, and he and Steve Woodhead were very busy selling kites, and I did help for a very short period. But it was an enthusiastic crowd, and the weather didn't help. And Harden have been a bit unlucky. The race, the races at Harden didn't get the benefit of the weather that Borough had a couple of weeks ago for the Woolfest. But anyway, it was a good festival nonetheless.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points to make. I agree with Councillor Flannery on the Kite Festival. It was, although the weather was terrible, it was very, very well handled. I'd like to commend what I believe was the work of the council staff in getting gravel pathways down to assist people so we all didn't have to wear gumboots. So that was good. And the 20th meeting with people, it was a conference on composting, which was very valuable. And it also, the issue to do with FOGO and the mandatory requirements in 2030 was raised at the local government conference, which will be in my report, or the Mayor and my report, when we've finished that. But very interesting things over the past months. The local government conference was excellent.
And Councillor Foreman, I think you've missed out, haven't you?
Well, I was an apology for the YCAC AGM last night, and I also attended the Kite Festival, and I also attended the races at Harden on the weekend, and I agree that that pavilion is absolutely amazing, and I don't believe that those events would have ran without that pavilion. So it gave a lot of shelter, and it's a really, really good facility. So it's I just like to give 3 cheers. It was good.
I might add that Councillor Foreman actually judged the fashions on the field. So congratulations. Councillor Ingram.
Meetings as minuted and meeting with constituents at the service station, IGA, the vets, the pub, the news agents, the doctors, wherever you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Councillor Mackie.
Meetings is minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Nothing to add.
Councillor Piper?
No, nothing to add.
Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only thing I'd like to add is the large number of constituent meetings at the 2022 Bridbury Show, just reaffirming the council's core business, regardless of what a lot of people think, is roads, rates and rubbish. Make no mistake about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And last but certainly not least, Councillor Hewson. Thank you. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you, Councillor. It's unanimous. We'll turn to Community Recognition Scheme and Councillor Mackie.
Yes, I just want to quickly recognise the Carmody family and their contribution to the Boorowa business over the last 70 years. They've really been such a part of our community, not that I've known them for 70 years, but for 60 odd of them, from when they were in the Fleming's shop to across at the model store and now in their current position. So I share with a lot of the locals the wonderful shared memories we have, just as a drop-in centre to find out from Patrick and Mrs. Carmody in the good old days about what was going on and what was happening with the football, and more recently with Marg when she moved to the current premises. So, as I say, from school books to various card selections, every birth, death and marriage in Boorowa, you know, we were there making our choices and supported by them as friends and as part of the Boorowa business community. So we'll miss Marg and her family. We'll miss them greatly. And I'd like to thank them for all the memories and wish Marg and family good luck for the future. I have not met the new owner yet, but I do wish them all the very best. And I'm sure we all want to welcome them to the Boorowa and the Hilltops community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Has anybody else? In that case, do I have a mover? Councillor Mackie? Oh, Councillor Piper, and a seconder, Councillor Ingram. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. We move on to the General Manager's report, and you will have noticed that from 12.1 to I think it is 12.19, there's a swathe of policies that are up to be put on public exhibition.
Is it possible that we could, I don't know, take all these policies in one go rather than try to go through them? I think we could save a bit of time, unless there were special policies we could pull out, but I think a number of them we could probably just deal with them as a group.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move a motion.
Yes.
In relation to one of those. So
you wish to move a motion?
In relation to one of those
well,
policies, yes.
Could we still move multiple items, but extract those that any that we wish to discuss or move a motion? Would you be happy with that?
I'm happy to have them dealt with, have the majority of them dealt with in bulk. The ones that I'm not happy having dealt with in bulk, I'll speak specifically about, yes.
Would you like to give me those numbers?
That will be 12.2, 2205 and 12.3, 2206.
Okay. They're the only ones?
Oh, there are a number of others I wish to speak to.
So
so through Madam Mayor, if you specifically like to debate them, we extract those, move as a block those ones, and then we open to discussion point for those ones within that block. Yes. Is that acceptable?
Yep.
Yep. Move as a block.
All right. So if we are you happy? You're moving the motion, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll move that we deal with them as a block.
Except for
12.2 and 12.3. 2205, 2206.
okay. We have a mover for that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Those in favour? Okay, thank you. All right. So if we go back and Councillor Armstrong, 12.2.
We're dealing through you, Madam Mayor. So we've moved as a block. Councillor Armstrong, I understand that you'd still like to speak to some of those policies within that block.
I'd like to move the motion in relation to.
Okay, so well,
Point of order. We've actually moved the bulk of them as a block, but we hadn't actually dealt with the two prior, so we're out of order.
no, the moved as a block. We extracted those two for separation.
So we can't deal with the ones that have been dealt with as a block. We have to move. I mean, it is a point of order.
What is to happen if one out of that block there's dissension and we don't want to put it out there?
That was the nature of moving them as a block.
The idea was to move if we move it for a block, but we extract those that people wanted to talk to or
So
move
it's
the
a block with
motion on.
extraction, but just
I understood we moved that motion as a block, extracting those two, so they're now extracted and we dealt with separately. So 12.2 and 12.3 will be dealt with separately.
and everything else is just passed.
No, they're to be discussed as the block because we've moved them as a block. That's Councillor Armstrong.
Madam Mayor, I was under the impression when it was put forward that we were going to,
I think.
what Councillor Armstrong wanted, distinguish those two, set them aside, and I think the wording was, is there anything else? And no one mentioned that they wanted to talk about any other points.
Right.
That is right. And if we go to the Code of Meeting Practice, I think, can we find the ruling? Here we go, 13. Councillors identify any vote against. State wish to speak on the items. They are to be adopted as recommended in the business paper. That's on 13.
So we move now to 12.2.
I'll move 12.2.
All right, 12.2.
Move and the seconder.
Seconder, Councillor Foreman.
Now for the debate on 12.2. So Councillor Armstrong, you had questions in relation to 12.2 and the discussion points?
I want to move the motion. Yes, I want to move the motion. That motion would be the council retain the existing customer service policy and commit to review. Sorry, turn that on. I'll restart. The council retain the existing customer service policy and commit to a review of such policy to be undertaken in 12 months' time, subsequent to the complete and successful implementation of the Technology One customer request management system, and where required, place the policy on display for 28 days for the purpose of public comment, and B, if there are no submissions received, adopt the Hilltops Council customer service policy at the completion of the 28-day exhibition period.
So acceptable to the councillors that moved? Councillor Flannery?
She loves you.
I'll wait for it to be put up on the screen.
I'm happy to speak to it.
Thank you. So we have
process undertaken, Councillor Flannery and Councillor Armstrong moved the motion as is, notwithstanding the point that Councillor Armstrong is quite correct that he did ask to move the motion in relation to that, subject to the acceptance of the mover and the seconder. That would put us into any further.
It's not an amendment, it's a motion.
It's motion.
Well, it's not in contradiction of the motion.
Maybe we should have just moved it.
Can we rescind the original motion?
Yes, I was suggesting.
Yeah, well, we're happy to withdraw, and
I'm happy to withdraw the motion.
as the foreman.
That's fine.
Okay. Move the motion now, Councillor Armstrong, and then when it's up there, we look for a seconder, and then it becomes the
Proceed.
motion.
Happy to second it.
Councillor Ingram, it's the motion.
So where are we going?
We are waiting for the motion to be put up and typed up, and we need to ensure that the wording is correct by Councillor Armstrong. Make sure that we've got the wording correct. So,
So, Mayor, I believe that's the motion that I provided to the minutes of the clerk.
That is right.
Oh, yep, I'm happy.
Yep. Okay. Do you wish to speak to
I
it?
do. Madam Mayor, Council at its last workshop was given a sneak preview of the new Tech One customer service or customer request system, the complaint management system I think it was referred to at that stage. I note that it was only in a test environment, wasn't in a live environment, so it wasn't deployed to the whole organisation. It had dummy data in it, it didn't have real data in it. That there had been no business processes built on the back end of it, so people didn't know how it was to work throughout the organisation, and there'd been no staff training done. In effect, it was a very new project that we got a sneak peek of it at the very start. I would suggest that as that process, the business processes are developed, as it's continued in testing and finally deployed into the live environment, and then staff training is done, we're probably looking at well after Christmas for us to be able to actually say we're using it in a live environment and producing reports out of it. We'll have a policy if we don't retain our existing policy, we'll have a policy that refers to a system that won't be working. That's about as bad a customer service as I think we can possibly provide. So what I would propose with that motion is that we retain the existing policy and subsequent policy as well, the complaint management policy, and until such times as the system is working and functioning and can provide some reports back to council, and staff have been trained in how to use it, those business processes are documented and found to be functioning correctly. To do otherwise would simply throw our customer service into greater turmoil than it's currently in. So I think that the most responsible process, the most responsible way in which council can move forward with this is stick with the policy that we currently have, and develop the new system. In 12 months' time, we can review our customer service policy and bring it into line with what the system provides us, because the system may actually provide us more than we see now, or it may provide us significantly less. we won't know until such time as it's been going in the live environment for some while.
So to put on public notice, public exhibition, we would be putting the original policy
That's correct.
on exhibition.
That's what I've moved there. That we
Okay,
we
I'm
are
just
effectively retaining the current policy,
yes.
and all we're doing is going back out to the community saying this is the policy that we propose to have in place. And in 12 months' time, council can review that policy again as the system comes online, as it's able to provide benefit to the community and to council in terms of the internal reporting and issue management. Then we can modify the policy
Yes, I
to
understand.
fit that. So
I understand that. Would the director like to say something in relation to this?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I understand some concerns relating to the customer request management system being referenced in this policy. However, I disagree with what has been said, and I'll explain why. At the workshop that Councillor Armstrong referred to, you were given the preview of our new integrated customer request management system that we are currently working on. At the moment, as explained, when a request comes into council, there's 3 different systems that are being used. So they still are customer request management systems. They're just not an integrated system for the whole of council, which will be used to improve the way we do business. So technically, the updated policy is correct in that when a request comes in, there is a system to manage that request. What we're working on is a better system or an improved system to manage those requests. We are well advanced in the planning and testing phase of this project, and we do believe that this will be implemented prior to Christmas. So whether the new system is implemented exactly as the policy comes out, I believe is not a big issue, because there is, as I said, a system that we use to manage customer requests. If anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to comment.
question, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just in regard to that, I'm just wondering why the performance provisions have been totally written out of the policy. There are no performance guarantees or performance measures in this policy at all.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I do believe in the number 3, our service standards, what you can expect from council. It does say telephone calls will be returned at the first opportunity within 24 hours or 1 working day. I do see that the 7 days for written requests has been taken out. And I guess that is an oversight. It should still be in there. You're correct.
Madam Mayor, I think the best way to correct this is to retain the existing policy to ensure that those performance measures are in place. I take on board the comments of the director in regard to the utilisation of the system by Christmas. But if we were to put a performance measure on that, like most things with Tech One, we might not be able to meet it. So I think in this case, hasten slowly is the answer.
So your consideration is to just present the customer service policy as is for public exhibition.
As per that
Yes.
as per that motion, yes.
Okay. All right. And we have a mover and a seconder.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, can I request that the I guess administrative things at the top are changed, just so that we can change the area of responsibility before we put that out on public exhibition?
Councillor, she's referring to that refers to an old title. So
My suggestion would be the general manager or his nominee.
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
All right. Okay.
No,
Yes.
just a comment
Councillor
in regard to, and Councillor Armstrong really covered off, talking about going live with Tech One, given the experiences we've had with other parts of Tech One have gone live. It's been a complete failure in a number of areas, so it's probably better that we get this bedded down properly before we do actually implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for your comment. Well, councillors, we have there in front of you the motion. Those, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Ingram, Foley,
Aye.
Gibson, Armstrong, Piper.
Against?
Foreman, Gerald, Rolls, Dog, Mackey. It's 5. Through you, Madam Mayor, it's 5-5. So you have the casting vote. I will point out at this point, if this motion fails in the absence of a foreshadowed motion, we will be unable to put any policy out for public exhibition.
Well, that puts me in a tricky situation, doesn't it?
Is it possible for me to foreshadow the original motion or not?
I believe, given that the motion was put, we are past being able to raise a foreshadowed motion. If that had been the case, it would have been prior to putting the motion. So now it is the motion before, and the casting vote to put a motion out on public exhibition is with you, Madam Mayor.
Can I ask a question? Is it possible for that to go out after the next meeting? Or should it go out now?
Can I ask, Madam Mayor, what's wrong with a bit of common sense?
If I may answer the question first from a technical point of view, all policies should be out for 28 days. Should it go to the next council meeting, that 28 days will fall just before Christmas. If there's any submissions, it won't be able to be addressed before the new year.
All right.
Could I just make a comment in regard to that? We have all the documents go out to public exhibition and comments, even big things like our budget, and it received 0 for that. Very doubt very much we'll get much response to this.
Yeah.
But they still have to go out in public exhibition.
Madam Mayor.
All right.
Just to all my fellow councillors, doesn't it seem common sense to follow this motion that's up here? Leave it as it is now, and hopefully within the next 12 months our Mickey Mouse computer system comes online and starts to do things properly. Then we have a look at it and say, yes, well, it's working. Let's adopt the policy that we want. We've got the policy here now. Don't change it. Our constituents know this policy, put it out for them. And if our computer system works, change it over. If not, we're back to where we are right this minute.
Thank you, Councillor Piper. After consideration, I think my decision is to go with putting it out to public exhibition as it is.
Are you,
So the
are
motion-
you for or against the motion that was voted?
I'm for the motion in putting it out. The motion passed. Now we get back to those on block.
Madam Mayor, there's the next one.
No, 12.3.
Didn't we deal with 2204?
12.1 and then skipping to 12.4 through to 12.19 was moved as a block.
Okay.
That's all right.
I'd like to move a motion that council retain the existing complaints management policy and commit to review of such policy to be undertaken in 12 months' time, subsequent to the complete successful implementation of the Technology One customer request management system, and where required, place the policy on display for 28 days for the purpose of public comment. And B, if there are no submissions received, adopt the Hilltops council customer service policy, adopt the Hilltops complaints management policy, my apologies, at the completion of the 28-day exhibition period.
Okay. Second, so it's
And
moved.
I'll speak to it too.
Yes, yes. We have a mover and seconder. So, Councillor Armstrong.
Madam Mayor,
if
the
you'd like
reason
to
I've done
speak
that is because this is an adjunct to the customer service policy,
I realise that.
and it makes sense to treat them effectively as one. At the end of the day, it's our customers that we disappoint and that we dissatisfy, disenfranchise if we have disparate policies there. So I think it's better that we retain the two for the period.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. I'll put it. Yes. I'll put it to the floor. Beg your pardon? Oh, yes. The director, would you like to talk to this at all?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. In that case, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Okay, it's unanimous, I think, this time. Thank you. Righto, and the others have moved as a block. So if we turn now to, I think it is 12:20, which is Hilltops Council official Christmas close down.
Hold on. We moved that they be dealt with as a block. We didn't move that we don't deal with them.
That is correct. We move it as a block. So 12.1, skipping 12.2 and 12.3 through to 12.19. We are moving the block and now we debate them as a block. I think, or am I misreading that?
They're taken to be adopted unanimously, I thought. So
This comes back to the point of order that we were
adopted,
moving that they be dealt with separately, not that we were moving that we approve them.
Madam Mayor, I believe my motion was to move them as a block, and so that we haven't moved to accept them. I agree with Councillor Flannery's vision of the motion.
Yeah, we haven't adopted them.
So we didn't adopt them. So I'll call on the Brains Trust here.
Yes, so through 13.1, if the motion had been to move them in a block and adopt them, that would have been through and the matter would have been dealt with. Moving them as a block, now they are bundled together. So any of those
that we wish to talk to.
17 policies that wish to be spoken to can be spoken to.
Madam Mayor, I move that we move into committee to discuss them.
Thank you. Okay. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. It seems to me some of these are just legislative. Am I right in saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, if we go around, Councillor Flannery, what ones would you like to talk to, or what are you interested in?
Madam Mayor, on the sister city one, I would like some clarification on council's position with that.
The clarification, Councillor. I think so. I think it's, unless there's essential to that. Yeah, it's further clarity.
Okay. Are we proposing that we retain the existing sister city relationships and the inter-council friendship agreement with Sutherland? I'm not aware of any formalities, informalities, or even correspondence between the two.
Through you, Madam Mayor, you're exactly right. I first read those when I looking at the policy. I was aware of the sister city, our Chinese city, but I was unaware of the history of the other two. Therefore, we brought the policy before you councillors to inform us as the history, because I had no knowledge of any relationship. I'm vaguely aware that the North Sydney one is a relation to the Buru I had with Landcare, but the other one, the Rockdale one, I'm unaware.
Look, I can enlighten you through you, Madam Mayor. The Sutherland Shire inter-council friendship agreement, I don't know that it was referred to as that at the time. The council term before I became a councillor, it was probably looking for the correct words, but it was perceived that council was not capable of working together, and the Minister for Local Government referred council to Sutherland Shire for assistance. I guess it might have been seen as one step short of an administrator appointed, if I was to talk frankly about it, but it actually developed into a very strong relationship. Sutherland Shire certainly, their then general manager, whose name escapes me, John, someone came and assisted. It transitioned to the new council, and it became a working relationship during following the resignation of a general manager. Soon into the term of the 2008 council, I think it might have been, Sutherland Shire provided one of their senior staff as an acting GM. They provided financial assistance to council throughout the 8 years that I was on council. They provided significant services on a fee-for-use basis, but I don't believe it was a corporate fee to do planning approvals, to provide general oversight of some more detailed planning applications that were going through council at the time. They generally became a sounding board, and a very useful one, and a number of the staff from the then Harden Council went and worked in Sutherland on a bit of an exchange program. Likewise, Sutherland staff who were tended to, given the scale of their organisation, tended to be pigeonholed, came and worked in Harden and got a handle on a far more broad scope of activities. Their corporate knowledge was used extensively, and I believe it's something, given where I see our existing council as being at, that we might consider availing ourselves of going forward. But it's certainly something that I don't think we should allow to drop, and I would encourage the General Manager to contact Sutherland Shire and make himself known to them. And where we are not getting through our workload, they might be able to provide some assistance.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I will say I did go to their website and there's no mention of Hilltops, but that's great, and I will certainly take that on board. So I will reach out to them. Thank you.
Could you, just the other question I have was excuse my ignorance, the Langzhou sister city relationship with the former Young Shire, and certainly we had a trip overseas previously. Do we intend to continue that relationship? Are we, by adopting this, formalising that as an ongoing basis? Where do we stand?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I know there was a trip undertaken at the previous Councillor Ingram to China. In that regard, there has been minimal correspondence. There has been correspondence between us and the relevant representatives there, somewhat impacted by the pandemic.
I've been there too many years ago. It's the capital of Gansu province in northwest China.
Okay, I'm in your hands, councillors, about what you would like with that relationship.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so who decides, since these were under the former Young Shire and the Harden Shire, now we are the Hilltops, do we review who we want to have these relationships with, and how do we go about that?
Through Madam Mayor, it is before you, councillors, but as articulated by Councillor Flannery, if there's been that strong, rich relationship with a council, it's something that certainly it's easier to leverage off. So I'm happy to pursue that relationship before pursuing other relationships. I have a network. I will ask, if I may, Councillor Ingram to talk about the relationship with China as the most senior person at that time.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. The sister city relationship plan, Joe, revolved from my dealings around the Chinese tribute gardens in Young, and some assistance to be given there. And as Councillor Houston pointed out, it was going before I came along. And there was some interaction and trips, and I think someone promised them a ram at one stage, but that couldn't take place. As it turned out, it was an inappropriate offer. But anyway, that's another matter for another day, Councillor Houston. Yeah. So I was worded not to make any false promises when I got there. But yeah, look, the relationship with China as a whole to Australia currently isn't all that good. Well, I respect that they're a great market for a lot of our produce. It's up to council to decide if it's worthwhile to keep that relationship open, given that the Chinese tribute gardens have received significant funding from grant funding, some of which I don't think has been expended all up yet, but anyway, it's another matter. So I'm not just too sure of the actual value. The trip I took entailed visiting a lot of areas around their city and how they progress and how they do their works and their planning. And I think I said in the report when I came back, they built half a city while we're looking at the plans. They work under a different culture, of course. So look, I personally, I don't, and it's, I don't know if it's for me to say, considering that I had a council funded trip to Lanzhou. So I don't want to take that away from anyone else if they want to have the relationship. But I personally don't see a lot of, like I talked about the CRJO, tangible assets or benefits coming to council from that relationship.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Might pass to the Director of
Yes,
Corporate
I was about
to
to
ask
say.
for a view. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, through you, Madam Mayor. The agreement in the policy with Lanzhou does reference Young Shire Council. It should have been updated to Hilltops because Council resolved in June 2019 to endorse an updated MOU with Lanzhou, and Council also acknowledged that that would be jointly signed as part of the delegation visit to Lanzhou in July 2019. So that updated MOU was signed by both Hilltops Council and Lanzhou in July 2019.
That's correct. I did sign that memorandum of understanding.
The question is whether we see it is of value in keeping that relationship for us as Hilltops.
Madam Mayor, I'll just remind Council that a former Young Shire and the Young Municipal Council, I'll go back a little bit further, sorry for that, had sister city relationships with Golden, Colorado, long before Lanzhou or anyone else. And during the transitional period of formation of Hilltops, the then Director of Corporate and Community decided that there was no longer a relationship between council and the community and the city of Golden, Colorado. The sister city relationship, which had been strong before that, I'd been on a number of occasions, all self-funded, not council funded, even though I'd done council business while I was over there. The relationship lapsed, and I think that we should, as a part of the normal course of business, these relationships lapse, and no one wants to say it, but perhaps it's the one that with Lanzhou lapses, then it'll be like the one that lapsed with Golden, Colorado. I would suggest that the similarities between Golden, Colorado and Young were far greater than Lanzhou, a city of a modest 4 or 5 million, and Young. So culturally, there may be some benefits involved in that, and I guess it's the cultural value that council will need to consider. But similarly, there would have been cultural values in that early relationship with Golden, Colorado as well. So move on.
And that memorandum of understanding was signed with the previous council, so it holds nothing for this new council.
Can I just say just a couple of things?
Councillor Mackie.
The ethical approach now, when we think about our relationship with China, and their safety in the workplace, their environmental responsibilities, corporate and social responsibilities, we're all sort of at differences really with them. So I'm wondering if it actually compromises the way we deal with that relationship, and perhaps it is time that we move away from it.
Would it be appropriate for us to consider this in the fullness of time after the 28 days, so we can have maybe some submissions from the community as to which direction the council should go?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's certainly before you councillors for discussion. Look, we do have a Chinese visitor guide still, which came out of that relationship, I'm sure. Notwithstanding that, that's a tourism mechanism. Potentially, the slide before you, we could let you, the councillors, can let this policy lapse, and the staff then reach out to Sutherland and see the relationship there and see what is there, and certainly North Sydney, and then also our Chinese counterparts is what their thoughts are, and bring a report back to council for a more fulsome conversation. But I am in your hands. This only would mean that that policy is not put out on public exhibition and lapses.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to the extent that I don't know that what I'm actually trying to achieve, given we're dealing with these as a block, my amendment to the resolution would be that council receive and note the report and bring a report back to the next council meeting, providing details on Langzhou as a city, and to the extent that you read the key objectives, it's promote, and I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but promote and endorse international information exchange. I think it says there's draft written across it. Enhance and promote the linkage of Hilltops and Australian government internationally. There's 5 dot points there. I think we've got to know a bit about Langzhou to even know whether it ticks any of those dot points. I won't say boxes because they're dot points. But if a report can come back on what it is that Langzhou, what their city is about, what they might help with us. I mean, we obviously have a significant intensive industry of pork, of fruits, and then we've got the broader agriculture. If we believe there's something to be gained from it, from our council's perspective, well, then we should work harder at it. If not, we should just drop it. So if a report to come back to council on the existing, well, the previous sister city relationship, and also detailing Langzhou as a city and what benefits there might be from us pursuing them. And then second dot point would be that the general manager write to Sutherland Shire requesting renewed contact for alliances that may be developed between Hilltops Council and Sutherland Shire. I'll leave North Sydney in abeyance because I think that actually deals, the land care deal directly with them. I don't believe they need to act through us.
Councillor Armstrong, did you have a point that you'd like to put?
I guess I think that the sister city relationship, and I will defer to Councillor Houston, who had a lot to do with the Langzhou relationship and the development of it. But the concept of sister city relationships is one of cultural value rather than economic value. And even though the contribution to the Chinese tribute gardens from the city of people of Langzhou has been quite substantial and deeply valued. The times have changed. We still value that cultural aspect of it, but perhaps there isn't as great an alliance, or not an alliance, but a greater relationship that exists between Hilltops and Langzhou as perhaps existed between the former Yang and Langzhou. I guess we're a different animal and they're the same one. So I think that in some respects I tend to agree with Councillor Fitzgerald's approach to suit the community he's got to say. And if they say nothing, then perhaps we would reframe this policy so as to suit what our goals are in terms of, of our needs.
Okay. I take your point, Councillor Armstrong. So as far as this policy is concerned.
So I think, given that this will be the process we go through, the policies that are of interest to councillors, I think we just need to tag each one in relation to the policy that's where there's been some discussion.
So I've moved that, we haven't got a second yet.
Could we just add to the motion if that we write to Langzhou informing them of the new setup of the three towns coming together as Hilltops?
They've got that understanding in the memorandum of understanding that I signed with them in 2019.
I understand.
Yes, because we were Hilltops when you went, wasn't it, Councillor? Can I ask Councillor Ingram, did you feel it of value?
Madam Mayor, if we don't have a second to the motion lapses.
I'll second the motion. I'll second the motion.
Yep.
I think the records would have it that when I returned from my ratepayer funded trip, there was a lengthy report tabled by myself at the time.
Thank you. So, as far as this policy is
So through you,
concerned,
Madam Mayor, we still are in the committee of the whole, so we actually can't pass any motion.
okay, we have to move
We're
out. Is
always
there
doing-
anybody else who would like to speak before we move out of committee as a whole?
Well,
No, how about we leave that up on this?
Yep.
For want of running the meeting, if we can go through any motions that people would like dealt with, and we can propose any amendments to any motions, and then we can move out of committee and put those up. Is that a reasonable approach?
That's a sound approach.
Very sad.
So Councillor Flannery, you still have the floor for any policies that you may wish to discuss. before we rotate
There is
around.
one more. I'll let others have a go first.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I
Maybe
first
some of those
got access to these draft policies, the 19 policies, on Sunday morning, and I've spent 3 days at the local government conference. I haven't been able to look at them in great detail, but I do have 28 days once they go on display, and I'll take that opportunity to put submissions in if need be, because 338 pages is pretty hard to look at over one night. So give me time and I'll give you something if there needs to be. Thank you.
Councillor Foreman, do you wish to make a comment?
Just let me have a quick flick. Okay. I have written here on the draft transfer of Crown Road reserves to council ownerships. Why does that occur? Why do we transfer them? What's the reasoning behind that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there needs to be a mechanism for which to transfer the land ownership. This policy in and of itself, it's governed by legislation. We don't determine it. However, the reason we brought the policy back, as in many of these policies, are really to ensure that the community understands the process that we're beholden to. It's more informative. There's no harm in the council adopting the policy.
Councillor Ingram.
Look, I won't go through a lot because I didn't bring my PJs tonight, but there's one I'd make a comment on, and the draft rural roadside vegetation management within council-owned and managed roads policy. I'd just like to see some of it done. More than as opposed to worrying about talking about a policy.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dodd. Oh, Councillor Mackie. Councillor Mackie?
No, I haven't an issue with the little bit that I read and understood. So no.
We're having trouble understanding. You're breaking up, actually, Councillor Mackie.
Yeah, it could be my connection, but no, I've read it. A lot of it, I quietly don't understand the depth of it. So I guess I'm a bit in the same category. I've got 28 days. If there's any issues that I find, then
Thank you, Councillor Mackie. Yeah, please reach out to the relevant officers to ask questions. Thank you.
Councillor Dodd.
My only questions were around 12.6.2209, the draft city policy, and that have already been discussed.
Thank you. Councillor Parker, you're fine. Councillor Armstrong, do you have?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In relation to the 12.11.22.14, I'm just wondering why. Can someone tell me where roads are managed? Are they managed by the Infrastructure Department? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1.
Sorry.
It's work. Sorry.
So, Councillor, you're referring to
the roads managed by
the roads are managed by the Infrastructure Department. My understanding was.
That's correct.
I'm just wondering why the Director of Corporate and Community would get saddled with a transfer of Crown roads to council ownership policy, and not the Director of Infrastructure, when the Director would be the one who would probably write the report, or the Director staff would write the report in regards to it. I realise that it's an administrative process, but the previous director, sorry, the policy when it first came to council was originally the responsible officer was the Director of Infrastructure.
The reason that is the property area sits within the Director of Corporate and Community, and because it's, as you said, is procedural, we thought it was more of a corporate property function rather than, obviously, infrastructure would be consulted in relation to roads. That's the reason why, Councillor.
I don't agree with that, but anyway, but you're the General Manager, I suppose, that if you want to put it out to that particular director, then I suppose that's your business, not mine. I note in section 2 determination, can the word there are exception circumstances, can that be changed to exceptional? That's on page 225 of this, page number 3 of the policy, page 225 of the business paper, Deirdre. The other one was the draft planning agreement policy. I noticed that we've got a draft planning agreement procedure and a draft planning agreement policy. The procedure still refers to the policy. Is there a reason for that?
Thank you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's because the procedure is subordinate to the policy. So the procedure references that the policy is the governance guiding document for the procedure.
Okay, thank you. So the procedure is a procedural document for council officers, is that correct?
That is correct.
Then that's an operational matter. What is it coming to us for?
It came to you, councillors, for information.
And so through you, Madam Mayor, that is the purpose of this paper, is that the current policy had bundled the procedure with the policy, and the big change was to decouple them.
Yeah, right. Well, I had questions about that, further questions about that, but that's given me the responses. Thank you.
Councillor Hewson. All right.
Madam Mayor, just
Yes.
coming back to the one other
Last one.
roadside
Councillor Flannery.
vegetation, the draft rural roadside vegetation management in council owned and managed roads. And it's been a bugbear of mine, and I did bring it up last time this was brought forward, is that firewood is not, under our policy, firewood is not to be collected. So one, do we turn a blind eye when firewood is collected? And two, is there a good reason why we're not allowing firewood to be collected? Because I'm pretty sure that if we have a bad fire season this summer, there'll be plenty of people who might rue the day that we didn't allow firewood to be collected.
Yes.
What, for humans or for little things that'll go and live under the ground?
Councillor Flannery, that's been a long-standing situation because under the current ridiculous work cover, under the work cover legislation, council becomes a PCBU for the wood removal operation. So we're responsible for the work health and safety of those individuals that are taking the wood. So if they chop their leg off, it's on us.
And it is also important for the wildlife and that live under the logs. Wouldn't you agree, Councillor Fitzgerald?
No, I don't agree at all. I think we are the primal species, and protection of us precedes protection of lizards.
Just a thing, I think I have an affection for all creatures, great and small.
All right, thank you, councillors.
Pleasure to hear that. Thank you.
I think we should move out of committee of the whole. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Seconder?
Jamie.
Thank you, Councillor Mackie. Those in favour? Okay, let's do it.
So, the Madam Mayor, just to recap, my understanding of the procedure at this point is all policies will be put out as per the report for the 28 days, subject to these the removal of the sister city policy for a report to come back to the November meeting, and allowing for the 12.2 the page 225 amendment that was highlighted by Councillor Armstrong in relation to that wording. So that would be the movement of the
block.
The block with those.
Mr. General Manager, sorry, Madam Mayor, Mr. General Manager, just a suggestion: if you want to put up this much policy in future, I'd suggest that this is an ideal matter to bring to one of those council workshops that are held on the first or second Wednesday of the.
Absolutely agree. We ran out of time.
This is ideal content for it.
Absolutely agree.
I agree. Right, so we have it here in front of us.
Yeah. So
I'll move that we vote on the block with the exception of 2209 to be dealt with separately.
Do we
Second
have a
that.
seconder?
seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Put to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you.
I'll move 2209 as displayed on the board.
Sick.
Flannery and Councillor Hewson. Put it to the floor.
Okay, that's just coming. To the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
councillors.
All right, let's turn over. I think it's to page 1221. All right.
Yep, we're there. Yep. 363. Report 1220.
Move the recommendation.
Okay.
Yep, the Christmas close.
I'll put the floor. Those in favour?
Armstrong, Ingram. Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Or 21.
All right, 1221 is the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee proposed external independent member. The recommendation is there. And attachment 1.
Shouldn't we wait until we go into confidential business to pass this one or not?
To you, Madam Mayor, there is the report, there is the confidential. If councillors wish to discuss the applicants within the attachment, we will have to go into confidential because it contains private information. In your hands, councillors.
But if we accept the recommendation, then we can pass it now.
Madam Mayor, I'd like some clarification, please.
Okay, so then we need to move into confidential.
We'll move into confidential.
I don't see how we can accept an individual, the individual is not named in a report there. So that within itself is I think is a point that we should consider. The other thing, of course, is that the report does say that the Hilltops ARIC Charter and the committee seeks council's approval to appoint a new member to the ARIC committee. I'm sorry, but I think council appoints the members to the ARIC committee, not the committee. So I think that this will require a specific resolution by council appointing an individual to the ARIC committee, because the ARIC committee has no authority or power to appoint anyone.
So to you, Madam Mayor, approve of the appointment of the recommended applicant as the external independent member of ARIC. That is within your ambit. So that is you as the councillors. The reason the individual is not named is because there is a selection of individuals for you to determine. Once you've determined that, then we make that individual public.
If I can just comment, Councillor Armstrong, in the last sentence of that paragraph, it states that the committee seeks council's approval to appoint the new member to the ARIC committee. Am I missing something here?
Council, sorry, Madam Mayor, council appoints the committee member, not the committee.
Yeah, no. In the last sentence there, I have a ARIC charter, and the committee seeks council's approval to appoint the new member to the ARIC committee. Isn't that's exactly what we're doing?
Council's doing the appointing, not the committee.
That's correct.
The council.
Well, that's not the way it reads.
Is putting forward the names. Am I right?
That is correct. And the notwithstanding maybe some perceived ambiguity in the narrative, the recommendation is that council approved the appointment. So you will be approving the appointment. So, yeah. Yeah. Are you so moving to move into confidential, councillor?
Happy to accommodate Councillor Fitzgerald in the closed part of the council.
Yeah, why don't we just wait and do it all together in one confidential?
So we move into confidential now, otherwise there'd be a procedural motion to defer.
I move that it be deferred and dealt with in confidential.
Okay.
Seconded.
All those in favour?
Those in favour?
Are unanimous into confidential.
All right, well, we'll move 1221 to confidential.
Yep. So Ingram and Fitzgerald. Oh, that's into confidential. Yes, that's right. Yep.
All right, if we move to 1222-25, the cash and investment report for 30th September 2022. Are there any comments? CFO, do you want to make any comments before we move this?
No, Madam Mayor, it's taken as read. Clearly, we, as any cash becomes available, we will go to the short-term money market. Normally, as you can see there, with the AAA listed organisations such as the Commonwealth Bank or National Bank, etc. So we'll shop around and try and get the best rate available. You'll find that the movement in the cash managed fund doesn't move greatly during from month to month.
Thank you. So do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Seconder? Councillor Hewson. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, Councillor. We move to 1223, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors reports. The recommendation is there that we receive that report. Once again, CFO, do you want to make any remarks before we?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. I just mentioned that we obviously are focusing on trying to collect our outstanding rates and charges. We still have some work to do. These figures at the moment don't include the sale of land report that I've put up in terms of some rates, outstanding rates, which we have not been able to collect. So that will obviously impact and reduce the value of outstanding debts, rate debts moving forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Can I call for a mover? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Seconder, Councillor Fitzgerald. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. We'll move to 12.24, 22.27, appointment of the community members to the Hilltops Council Biosecurity Weeds Advisory Committee.
Move that with a question.
Seconded.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, my reading of the information before us is that there are 4 members of the committee, 2 councillors and 2 outside members, Mr. Holland and Parker. Are there no staff members on that committee?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are no staff members on the committee, but there are staff to support the committee in an advisory capacity.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? In which case I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Moving to 12.25, 22.28, development application stats for September 2022.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hewson. Any comments? Questions?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to acknowledge that we've gone back to the old reporting framework exactly as you had it 3 or 4 months ago.
Thank
Very
you.
pleasing to see councillors being informed. Thank you.
So thank you, Director. I will put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Director. Okay, the next one, 12.26, 22.29, the DA 2022-0192 dwelling house and shed at Yellambi Road, Harden. Director, do you want to make some comments before we?
Through you, Madam Mayor, only to say that this is essentially exercising a lapsed consent. So this isn't an unplanned development, it's just restoring that right.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. A seconder? Councillor Hewson. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Unanimous. Next one, I think, is 12.27, and that's the rural waste facility management. The recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. A seconder?
Councillor Ingram.
Councillor Ingram.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I've Councillor Armstrong, sorry.
You're in front of me.
Okay, thank
Councillor
you.
Ingram.
Just a quick question in regard to the asbestos at landfills. Council still currently hold licence to have asbestos
Director of
at our
Infrastructure.
I'll ask the Director of Infrastructure to help us with that question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, none of our rural landfill sites are allowed to receive asbestos, and it is unfortunate because these are unmanned, people have keys. we are receiving asbestos, and the incident referred to in the paper is because that became friable when somebody lit a fire at the particular landfill.
Thank you for that response, but that wasn't my question. My question is, does council hold licence at any of its tips for asbestos?
We have 2 licensed facilities, and Red Hill facility can receive asbestos.
Thank you. Is the facility enabled to take asbestos? I asked this question given we've been through this once before and it cost council a lot of money.
We generally do not receive asbestos at that licensed facility. We can, but it's a very small quantities of asbestos. If we receive any more than a small quantity, it has to go to Bald Hill, which is more suited to receiving that material.
And a whole lot more expense.
Thank you. Thank you, Director, for your answer. Councillor Dodd, did you have your?
Thank you. It's catching. My question is, how is this to be communicated? Because we're making changes, and one of the things that came out in all those community consultations was that people wanted to be kept informed, and I think that individual progress associations or whichever group is in that community needs to actually be informed personally, not just an announcement on the Hilltops website.
The intention is, if this is accepted through council, we will be going to the interest groups, and we've started putting a program together where we go to the most affected ones and we have the community conversations with those progress associations or whatever is in the local community. But certainly we do need to go with a plan. It is becoming a task that is untenable.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So how are we regulating who uses that? Are you going with the where you've got replaced locks? Is that going to be someone still has a key? Are we going to the key format or
no?
Back to
the whole purpose is that these will be manned, so the keys will be held by staff, and people will be provided with dates and times as to when the facility will be open. Okay. We have some of them that are already like that. In Harden, for example, that is a manned site, and the amount of manpower that's going into going back and cleaning these sites, we believe that we can actually effectively control what is there and also manage it. And you'll see the comments from the EPA as well. They're very keen for us to continue to do something more and control access to those sites.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Piper.
Just a question through you, Madam Mayor. The Rye Park Reed Flat landfills in the 7th of December 2021 was visited by the biosecurity people. Now they found at both facilities prohibited pig feed. Who have we got in our Hilltops was rich enough to put pig feed in a waste dump? Did we ever find out who did it?
No, because a lot of people have access to these landfill sites, and that's the reason why we want to actually man them. And prohibited pig feed is any food material, food scraps that pigs can get to. That's a term used by the biosecurity people. It doesn't mean it's a specific type of food. It's just that they can get to it and eat it. And they're worried about swine flu. So that's the problem.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors and Madam Mayor. The same day that I went to Bridbury Show, I drove home through Tubble and visited the Tubble landfill site at the request of some locals. I don't know whether I was the only councillor that wasn't going out there or not, but I hope I wasn't. I did actually send an email around to all councillors with some photographs of that. The site used to be a reference site for rural waste disposal sites. Other councils would come and have a look at it. If they came and had a look at at that time, then I know what they would have said. I guess I can't see any way forward with this other than to turn that into a transfer station. The amount of material that was deposited in it that shouldn't have been in it was absolutely mind-boggling. The amount of metal, the amount of of aluminium, the amount of bedding, the Lord only knows what else. I don't believe that it's residents of the area that are doing that. I believe it's people that are travelling quite some distance to dispose of it, in actual fact. The sad fact of the matter is that the residents of all these areas are going to be disadvantaged because of the actions of a few. But I just can't see that there's any way forward other than the use of a control facility and a transfer station. So I'd encourage council to support the recommendation. I'd also encourage council to consider chasing up the outstanding funds and the report that they've just adopted, the data report from the state government, because that'll go part way towards paying for this. The suggestion that we could fund it out of the domestic waste management surplus, I believe, is flawed, because in my time, the domestic waste went to, the domestic waste extended only to the scavenging area rather than outside of the scavenging area. So I think that it's absolutely critical for us to find a means of funding it and to get on and do it. The more that we sit down with our hands on our backsides, the worse this problem gets. It doesn't get any better. And I'll go back to my earlier statement, is that the majority of people that approached me at the Brisbane show were concerned about roads, rates and rubbish.
I agree with you, Councillor Armstrong, about the tip. I've visited it on 2 occasions, actually, and I received a phone call just the other day to say that the new lock that had been put on by council had actually been cut. So I support this recommendation as well.
So if the cutting of the locks is an issue, how are we, because isn't there still going to be an issue with the transfer station? And even if it's only managed 2 days a week, are we still not going to have that issue of the locks being cut?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we are very concerned about it, because we put a lock on and then 2 days later it's cut and it's missing. We are also, as part of the immediate recommendations, is to put up cameras so that we can see who the perpetrators are and start actually finding people and making sure that they understand that this is a facility that can only be accessed at those times. It's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of communication with the communities, and also harness the community's eyes and ears in terms of who's accessing those, and they will know. I mean, the community members, what came out very strongly in the community consultation was they know who the people are that are going to those sites. So it is going to be a joint affair to make sure that we can actually get these things under control.
Matter of compliancy too, isn't it?
That's correct.
By all of us.
And part of the community communication is, if anybody sees illegal dumping, there is an EPA hotline. So any illegal dumping can be reported to the EPA, and that is a resource that we are going to be leaning on very heavily. We will put signs up on the gates that say this is the hotline for EPA. EPA then investigate it. They don't even have to say their name. They can do it anonymously, and that is one of the other tools we will be using.
Thank you for that information. Okay, we have it in front of us. We've had it moved and seconded. I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. If we move to 1228, 2331, fixing country roads and fixing local road grants. The recommendation is there. Big one. Yes. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. And a seconder? Dodd. Councillor Dodd. Not Dodd, Councillor Dodd. Okay.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Have we had any response, or could council staff advise on when we will receive information regarding the success or otherwise of our applications.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is really entirely at the mercy of the grant funding bodies. And as soon as we find out either successful or unsuccessful, we will certainly advise councillors. It is not a process that we control or have any visibility of.
No, I'm aware we don't run the state government. So we were not advised when the funding rounds would be made available. It's usual process. They say money will be announced by December, January, February. No advice.
No advice at this point in time. We can try and find out from the funding bodies and give them a call.
Thank you. That might be a good idea. Sorry, through you,
Madam Mayor. Just one. So is that why there is a 12 months for what they say able to commence in the first 12 months from receipt of signed funding deed? Is that why that is such a lengthy period of time?
That's correct. They say you must be ready to be able to do this work, and they give themselves a period of time to make those determinations. And then you have a period where you have to complete the works.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right. We have had a mover. Is there a hand?
No.
No, a mover and a seconder. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? I think unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Uh, 12:30. We up to
12:29.
12:29. Pardon me. Here we go.
Move with question, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. A mover, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Your question.
Yes, could the director please advise why staff were using sand to fill potholes on Ringo Road this week?
Councillor Flannery, through you, Madam Chair. I believe that we have sort of run out of cold mix this week. We were struggling to get, we've got 4 suppliers, all 4 suppliers couldn't supply us. We have gone to an emergency one in Parks. We received it today. So as an emergency, we used sand in some of the potholes last couple of days.
So could you provide an estimate of what the cost might be of the sand or the cold mix compared to the actual the marriage of or the men getting to the job, actually doing the work? I would have thought it might be 10% of the cost. I would have thought sand might last 10 minutes. So do you see that as a good expenditure?
Councillor Flannery, through you, Madam Chair, it's an emergency we're in at the moment. If we don't have cold mix, we need to do something else to at least keep cars safe. There's been a number of damages to cars, so we do what we can do with a difficult situation.
Thank you.
I appreciate that it's there's a lot of potholes, but I'm concerned about the cost of putting staff out and literally putting sand in potholes. I would have thought putting signs up saying potholes is I'm concerned that we'll have utilised the funding that we might have available, putting sand in potholes.
Thank you. I presume that was that a question?
Well, could it be brought back to the next meeting, the cost of putting sand in potholes and how long it'll last? I mean, it's one thing to put cold mix in potholes, which might last 4, 6, 10 weeks, but I believe the sand might last 10 minutes. I think it's just a waste of money. Could we get some costings on putting sand in potholes?
We'll certainly bring it back to the next council meeting.
Could I just make a comment too? At the CRJO meeting, Yas, who is having the same problems, had to go for a week without any hot mix because they just couldn't access it. So this is a problem. And at the conferences we have been at, one of the major concerns was the potholing. So I take your point that sand mightn't be the best, but to my mind, at least an effort is made by our crews who have been out all the time, trying their best to make our road as safe as possible. So I thank them for that.
Can I make a comment too? Can I make a comment too to reiterate what Councillor Piper mentioned at the start of the meeting? I have been told by a number of constituents that they're really impressed by the work that the council staff are doing, and they do appreciate it. And they said, you know, there's no solution, you're just going to keep working. And driving back from the local government meeting, there were council workers, about 3 or 4 trucks on the road from Boorowa, and machinery, maybe 8 to 10 staff there in pouring rain, just doing the best they can. It's greatly appreciated, and the community do see what you're doing, and I just commend you for the work you've been doing. Thank you.
You, Councillor.
Thank you.
Just a question for you, Madam Mayor. When Councillor Flannery is saying sand, is it just beach sand, or is it sand with gravel and other stuff mixed in with it?
It's actually a gravel that we get from our own pits that we put in there.
Just backing onto that again, over the weekend I was called out at 7 o'clock in the morning for the rain we've had on Trucking Yard Lane, and a person I know, their driveway was washed away completely. And again, good work to council. Within 3 hours, he had a brand new driveway put in of this sand, and it's compacted, and it's as good as the tar that was on the road there before. But backing Councillor Flannery up, it's no good getting a shovel full of sand and putting it in and just leaving it. We've got to compact it in to make it good. But again, you've done a good job.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Piper, yes, they are compacting it. They use the truck wheels to compact it. It's actually a law that if we do bring in a compactor, we have to close down the road. We have to put stop-go in place. So the easier way of doing it is by shovel, and then use the vehicles to compact it.
Just again, Madam Mayor, when you were talking about compacting, you bring a compactor in, is it a big machine? I'm thinking of a compactor with a little pull starter that goes bang, 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 bang.
Yes, Councillor, that one, it takes time to move out of the road. So we can't, we have to close the road for that section with stop-go if we want to use those type of compactors. We do have the hand compactors, which is quickly in, quickly out, but most of the time they use that in conjunction with the vehicle.
Thank you. And Councillor Dodd, you have a
I also
question?
would like to commend staff, because I've driven to Harden and Boorowa this week, and there is noticeable improvements, noticeable areas of patching. And a friend who travels to Jugiong weekly said the Jugiong road was so much better. So thank you.
I would also like to commend staff, but I am concerned about the cost of the sand, that what I would regard as sand or highly decomposed granite just won't last. And the signs where we can't get decent aggregate in there would be more appropriate. But certainly there has been a concerted effort to fix potholes.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to the Director. Does Council still undertake penetration patching, where we use bitumen emulsion and aggregate?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes. When we do our heavy patching, that's when we use it.
So this is a shovel full. We prime a pothole, put a couple of shovelfuls of aggregate in it, that reprime it, and then finish off with aggregate.
If it's pothole fixing at the moment, it's just the cold mix that goes into the pothole itself.
Only using cold, not using.
Only using that. There is other places where they've got the emulsion with the stone that they then put in layers across it. Yes.
Is there a reason why we're not doing that penetration patching with emulsion and stone?
It's just for speed at the moment. We're trying to cover everything.
I would like to acknowledge the exceptional effort the staff have put in regards to the road situation. The improvement has been immense. I have grave concerns about filling potholes with gravel, but at the end of the day, they're full.
Yes, and that's important. And at the local government conference, I think we brought back a show bag, didn't we, about this special pothole mix that you can actually use in the wet. So I think we passed it on to the Director. Don't ask me how much it costs and if it really works, but it is there for you to have a look at. So don't say that we're not trying to help you. So, but thank you for your work. Councillor Ingram. Yes,
Mm.
comes in. I'll show you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in regard to that, and I too, like every other councillor, endorse their sentiments with our staff working under very trying conditions and facing a monumental job. And they're to be congratulated on what they've achieved. I'd just like to know if any time soon staff will be sent or directed to the Bibaringa Road to have a look at the condition. I will declare an interest. I don't live on that road, but I do travel that road to do some work. It's like every other road. It's absolutely disgraceful, but due to the weather, and it's all been caused because no drainage has been done down the sides. And the reason I bring it and mention it tonight is we're coming upon cherry season, and out that particular road happens to be one of the biggest cherry growers, not just in this district, but in Australia. And they employ a lot of people from away, foreign people who sometimes have trouble driving on real good roads. So it is an accident waiting to happen. If something, and I know we're prioritised and it's not used with the volume of traffic that, say, the Grenfell Road is and the Burra Harden Road. I know that, but there's no counters out there. But I would like to think that it could be looked at before harvest for the cherries comes into place, which isn't very far away. Second question I had was in regard to page 472, footpath curb works and maintenance. States Capel Street to Campbell Street, new footpath investigation works from revenue. I'm a bit curious about that. If you turn to page 480, there's a action point there for actually a mayoral minute that stated the council will be provided with the urban footpath construction program for this year for its consideration, as well as the process for determination of the program. So I might ask the question there, I can leave it to that page. Are these two things in sync, or are we just completely out of sync? We're doing things in ad hoc and we're taking no notice of council resolutions.
You, Madam Mayor, no, they are in sync. This is just an investigation we're doing that would go back to council for this determination.
My next question then would be who determined that they would investigate this section, and how do a ratepayer get an inspection done when they consider they need to have some curb and guttering or footpath done?
Through you, Madam Mayor, one of the directions of council is that we need to investigate doing the PAMP, and we have now launched the request for quotation via the government tender panel, and we will be receiving some costings back. So we're not doing any new works. This is probably a hangover from we were doing some investigation. We are stopping all new works on footpaths until we get the outcome of the request for quotation to do the PAMP. Once we've got those values, we can come back to council. We will know whether the 35,000 that has been allocated would be sufficient, and then we would have a plan that would come back to council.
Thank you for that. My next question is then, can council be updated to where the investigation has got to with in regard to curb and guttering in Petticoat Lane? I declare an interest. I live there. So does Councillor Dodd. That was looked at by the works foreman, so it's a little while back now, and the engineer. And I haven't received any correspondence or any indication of what their thoughts were about the need for that curb and guttering to be finished and completed in a urban area of our town. So I'm just wondering where that went to or where it's up to.
At the moment, through you, Madam Mayor, the person who was driving that investigation and who was heavily involved in that has been off sick for 2 months. So, and the other person was working closely with that person has left the organisation. So we will have to just go back and see if we can find those records.
So the engineer that was there, he's gone?
No, the engineer who was there is off sick.
Okay. All right. Well, just as long as it's not lost in the pile somewhere, that's all.
I will make a note of it. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Madam Mayor, sorry. Just a few other questions. I raised it, I think at the last meeting, the meeting before, Moppity Road, there's a number of, and it was the purpose of an email I sent around a number of weeks ago. A number of the culverts through most of our roads are not clean, and the water can't get through them. There's an area on the Moppity Road in the vicinity of Cusack's property. It's had water lying on it for at least a month, if not 2 months.
Just a moment, Councillor.
Thank you. Could I draw the director's attention to Moppity Road? It is getting seriously dangerous because the water, when I drove in today, and I'll declare an interest because I drive along and if that is what I have to do. The water would have been a foot deep on the left-hand side of the road heading north. And if you have to move over and there's a car coming the other way, or if you lose control, and it is as simple as getting a grader or a bobcat to clean out the verge and get the water into the drain. And there's another 2 or 3 places where water is traversing the road where not much work would take to get it down the road. Could you provide us with details of where the Murrumbula Creek work is up to? I noticed it's not on any of the works report, noting that we did delegate the work to Delaney Civil. I would have thought there would be some role for council in carrying out some of the prep work, or if not, could we be provided with a report? Because my memory is the grant expires in December unless have we sought an extension, or is it going to get done by December? There was another question. Glen Road, has any work been done on Glen Road? I noticed that it's not in any of the works report. And my final question was the Boorowa money provided, additional funding provided for the Kite Festival, the Cherry Festival and Woolfest. Where was that money utilised? Can we be provided with details of what that money was utilised for? Noting that no flags are available for Harden for the Kite Festival and that the road verges or entrance to Boorowa wasn't mown. So I'd like to know where the money was spent, given that usual activities that occurred didn't happen this year.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
So through you, Madam Mayor, the Murrumbula Creek work obviously cannot happen at the moment because of the rain, and you will see how strongly the creek is flowing. However, the contractor has purchased the play equipment, and I believe it's a 14 to 16 week turnaround time for the play equipment to be delivered. We have been contacting the grant funding body. They are aware of the circumstances we have with all of the wet weather. We are getting a variation for that work, and we can show commitments, because what they were looking for is to say, if you are going to be doing this job, prove to us that you've got commitments. The fact that we have a tender that has been awarded and a contractor has been put in place, we can demonstrate that there has been a commitment to complete the works, and we're going through that process right now.
So have we formally advised them the work won't be complete in time?
Well, we are requesting an extension of time with them, and they are aware, and we formally advised them that we will be submitting a variation. And that's the work that we're going to be finishing off by the end of this week. And we have been in contact with the grant funding bodies to ensure that we get that variation. Glen and that, do you want to take that on? With regards to Moppity Road and the Glen Road and the money for the Woolfest, I can't comment on that because that's not an area that I don't know if the director corporate would like to comment on that, but the Glen Road, we will also take on notice. Come back to you.
So no drainage work has been carried out on Glen Road that you're aware of?
Through you, Madam Mayor, only works was done when we got to know about it. I think it was a previous council meeting. We did some work there. Ever since, it's too wet to go in there. We can't get in there. Saying that, we've been pulling crews from our open spaces to go and help the roading crews to do some work, and drainage work has commenced in certain areas, so we're working our way through that as well.
Thank you. As the Director of Corporate, does she want to comment at all on?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, the funding that we received through both Destination New South Wales and Department of Regional New South Wales, or the state government, was not able to be used for roadworks or anything like that. What it was used for was fringe events for both Woolfest and the Harden Kite Festival. So the events that took place in the lead up to both events, to make that a longer.
I can't hear very clearly. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's just me.
Sorry, Councillor, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So the funding received was not able to be used for roadworks or anything like that, or maintenance, but it was used for the fringe events that took place before each festival.
Okay.
So we didn't have any flags flying in Harden, and entrances to Borough weren't mown, which presumably we've done every other year. Well, not presumably, we have. We were given extra money, but we weren't able to carry out any of those activities. So what are we going to do about funding them in the future? I think it's reasonable that council will be provided with details of where the money was spent.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the flags that you're talking about, Councillor Flannery, apparently the down approach from Binalong side, the flags were put up there, those banners, and it broke off, and they then went and they put it on the old tennis courts. There was two on the sides there. That was the one. The mowing of it, there's areas that they just could not get in. It's too wet. There's no ways they could have got the mowing done before the Kite Festival.
And can I say that?
Look, I was actually referring to the Borough Woolfest. Borough Woolfest was fantastic, and the community did a huge job. But for the first time in my memory, the entrances to Borough, and it actually wasn't that wet leading up to it, weren't mown, which I think it's pretty much, I wouldn't say it's the only job council does, but it was just consistent with where we're heading, which is disappointing. The flags, there's 32 flag poles, I think I counted, and we've got 6 flags flying. They were only put up to fly flags at festivals. They weren't put as pigeon nesting poles. They're putting fly flags. To say that it was too windy is just not true.
Can I just make the comment that I went to the Woolfest, and I must admit I went through a number of the entrances, and I took into account the weather and the wet, but I can't say that it hit me in the eye that any areas were not mown. They had been cared for, you could see that, but also I was perfectly aware of the weather events that had stopped. I mean,
look,
we've had a lawnmower blocked in our place.
The reality is, service levels have declined, and that annoys me and it bothers me. And you can make all the excuses in the world, but the fact is the service levels. Now, we clearly didn't have the flags for Harden, or someone couldn't be bothered putting them up, which I don't think is the case. I think we don't have them, and the preparation didn't go into it. If we've given extra money for fringe festivals or whatever it is, I think a bit more can be done to get the basics right. Now, I don't want to debate whether it was a fantastic festival. Our service levels dropped, in my view.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Flannery. I'm assuming you're talking about the driveways into Borough from the Harden turnoff into Borough. Well, I will agree with the gentleman here that it's too wet, because I know that they actually tried to mow around over where our oval and our new toilets are and ripped the grass out completely. So they obviously were looking at it and decided that it was too wet to do that.
Thank you, councillors, for all your comments. We have had a mover and a seconder. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous? No, pardon me.
Those against?
Those against? Councillor Flannery and Armstrong. Thank you. We'll move on now to 2030, pardon me, 2233, the action summary report. There's a recommendation there. Do I have a mover? Okay, thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. And do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Any comments, questions?
Madam Mayor, there's been a number of reports that have been asked for. They don't seem to make it into the action summary report. So I would like to add to the action summary report some of the requests I've. Number one, there was an email circulated 2 months ago about bridge naming at Murrumbara. Could it be added to the action summary report, because it just seems to you send emails around as a councillor and I think a lot of the time nothing gets done. Look, most of the emails that get circulated by us as councillors, nothing happens about them. They don't formally make it. So clear we've got to formally make requests. The pool filtration at Harden, and the director said that a report would come to council about filtration and the future works for all pools, and I think that was 3 months ago. We have received nothing so far. We have a report on the Harden pool filtration, the grant we received, and any other works that are required at council pools. Gaylong Road, we didn't vote the transfer of funds on Gaylong Road, and there's been no information on Gaylong Road and what alternative funding sources are being sought to complete the works there, so it can be opened as a B-double route. Weights and measures, I asked for a report on weights and measures 2 council meetings ago. I've had nothing back. Can we have a report on what it costs council for weights and measures, what road, the level of service we get, and where the fines go to, whether they come back to council or whether they go off to weights and measures. I asked a question on whether we had been buying gravel out of another council, and it was taken on notice. We've had no response. I get a formal response on whether we've had to buy gravel from another pit, from another council. I asked the General Manager on Harden Caravan Park why there's a cost differential between the caravan park and the showground at Harden, which means that caravan park is not being frequented at the showground dumping site. And I've had no response on that. We get written advice on the cost differentials between the caravan parks within our shire and how they're operated, and the cost of any dumping sites and the impact that that might have on our caravan parks. Please.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. All the questions?
It is at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I back Councillor Flannery up here about, I believe we were doing an investigation into all of our swimming pools and their conditions, and I haven't heard anything yet.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll ask the Director to give an update on where that report is at. I believe we've received an interim report or a draft.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the last time we discussed the pool report, which was about 2 months ago, we had a draft report. It wasn't a finalised report, and we had to wait for the finalised report. The company that we're using has been quite busy, so we are still finalising that report.
But it's in the pipeline. It is coming.
Certainly is in the pipeline. The majority of work has been done and completed in terms of the report itself, not the work on the pools.
Thank you.
Question, Madam Mayor. Just this goes to your mayoral minute. Resolution 22-181 regarding the urban footpath construction program. So it's progressing. I'm just wondering whether is that progressing along with the PAMP? So the PAMP, that is, this program, construction program, will be the PAMP. Is that correct?
That is correct. That came before we were finalising the PAMP. So the PAMP will inform that program. At the minute, we're not doing new pavement works or footpaths. We are only repairing and replacing footpaths for public safety purposes.
So we won't have any capital expenditure at all?
Well, we'll be using, no, not capital.
Thank you.
I presume the wet weather affects the footpathing as well, doesn't it?
Does indeed.
Just one more question, sorry that I missed, Madam Mayor. I asked, I think, two meetings ago whether we had to hand back any grants for roads or any other activities, or had been requested, or we had failed to meet. I think I was very broad in my question, whether we'd failed to meet deadlines and were likely to have to hand back grants. Had been formally advised that we had failed, or we believe we would have to hand back any grant money. And I think at the end it was taken on notice. The initial response was not that the director was aware of, but then it was taken on notice. Are we aware of any grant deadlines we have failed to meet, and we will, and that council as a result is likely to have to hand back the grant money?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, at this point in time, as I mentioned earlier, like with Murrumbula Creek, we have identified that there are deadlines that we cannot meet for various reasons. And those projects we have been discussing with the grant funding bodies. At this point in time, a paper went to council about the one bridge where we had to refer to send them, well, we didn't send any physical money back. We just said to them that we will not be drawing down that money because we couldn't do it for that work. So yes, there is one where we had to refuse the funding because we couldn't build the bridge. The grant funding body recommended to us that we actually say we don't want that anymore and reapply because we've got a design now and we are shovel ready. So that's the one area where we've had to say we don't want the money. But for the rest of them, we are working hard in trying to get those extensions because of various reasons the projects have not been delivered.
When you say for the rest of them, could you enlighten us as to what the rest of them might be?
I would suggest that through you, Madam Mayor, that the rest of them will, when we prepare the capital works program that we have been asked to put together, that will clearly indicate which ones are falling behind and which are not. It's a big body of work that we are busy doing and going through all of the line items in the capital program.
Thank you. So it's in progress. That's what you're saying. Mr. General Manager.
Mark, I can't hear you.
You most probably can't because I didn't have my mic on. Is that better?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Thanks.
12:32, 22:35 committee reports. There's a recommendation. Note minutes of the following committee reports as presented. We've got the Lachlan Regional Transport Committee meeting and the AGM. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor
Second.
Foreman. Seconder, Councillor Armstrong. I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We will move to questions with notice. 13
Just
point.
a query?
Yes.
Is it unanimous when a councillor's not in the room or just counting the votes that are in the room?
We just carry the votes within the room. They don't vote because they're not here. So they're just noted that they've left and they're not recorded.
Did notice being noted that they left. Thank you.
Questions with notice. 1331, request for information. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank the General Manager and his staff for supplying the responses and in particular the financial details for the Burra Sale Yards, the Young Sale Yards and the truck wash. I do note that there is absolutely no income recorded for the Burra Sale Yards from 2018 to date. No capital expenditure and operating expenses. Young Sale Yards has a very modest income and a considerable expense. My question, I guess, I note the $16,244.80 expenditure, operating expenditure in 2021, 2022. And I'm wondering, we had $12,000 left over in capital works that was revoted to offset some over expenditure. I can see why. Obviously, the $12,000 for the pesticide residue testing has been charged back to the operating account rather than the capital account, as was council's original intention for that $12,000. Of particular note is the income for the truck wash. At that rate, it should be closed. I am particularly concerned that there is no ability of council to advise when and where footpaths get mown. And to say that a preliminary schedule of all open spaces works has been completed would indicate that there is no schedule at all for any of that at all mowing. I'm reminded of Councillor Ingram's concerns about the entrances to Young being mown, and I can see why, because the fellows that are going to do it have never been told to do it, it would appear, based upon the fact that we don't have a schedule. That concerns me greatly, and there will be a notice of motion coming forward about that in future. The other thing that concerns me is the issue of verbal reports. Verbal reports provided to committees. They're not communicated to councillors in the way in which they're communicated during the meeting, and that's my experience. This has concerned me for some considerable period. I don't believe that council's compliant with the Records Act in that respect. I certainly don't believe that councillors are being provided with information that assists them in the execution of their jobs. And for that reason, there'll also be a further notice of motion coming forward to council in regard to the way in which those records will be retained. I think the General Manager otherwise.
Thank you. Do we have a mover on this? There's no need to move.
Question of you, Madam Mayor.
Questions with notice? Don't have to.
On to Councillor Armstrong's first point here about Burra Sales Yard. Where do people, if they use them, where do they pay?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I was
right. We've got here an answer to Councillor Armstrong's question with notice.
Yep.
And the first item is Burra sales yard income 00000.
I believe the process. So thank you for indulging me there. I was just going through a procedural type part that my understanding, and I'll stand corrected, that the councillors need to receive and note the information provided. Not that it just not be acknowledged. However, Councillor Piper, that's correct. We're looking at the process there on how the brewer sale yards are actually being utilised, because it came to light that people are using them. We do have fees for it. So I believe there needs to be an education process there.
Well, my question still stands. Okay, I've got a truckload of sheep or half a truckload of sheep. I want to leave there and go somewhere else. Where do I pay, or who do I pay?
The example that I'll use, it's for the young sale yards, inquiry is made and you come to the counter and you book it for the period of time you need it, and you pay the fee.
Because I agree with your findings. Yep. They are being used.
Yep. So we need to look at that as a broader question.
Thank you.
Just further to that point, I think actually the $314.68 for 2021 for the young sale yards was actually paid by the former mayor for a trucking operation that had to use the sale yard because of flooded roads, I think at the time, but that's the only income that's been reported. That's where that come from.
Thank you, Councillor Ingham.
So do we have to?
I believe the protocol would be to receive a note that the answers. I'm sorry, Councillor.
In relation to the sale yards, and I think it's a pertinent point, and it might come to light a bit more when we get a report on weights and measures, but there's a number of roads, particularly in the Burra Shire, where B-doubles and over 8-tonne vehicles and some in the Harden Shire are not able to access. There are no sale yards in Harden Shire anymore. However, it has been put to me by a number of carriers and farmers that they pay rates, and given their roads don't get graded and the potholes don't get fixed, and if the sale yards get sold, they won't have many services left that they use, because the only trucks they can get in are tabletops that are under 8 tonnes, and they get their stock to the Burra sale yards, who are then picked up by semi-trailers and B-doubles from there. So I would make that point. They believe they pay their rates, but if they're going to be functional and more generally used, perhaps we need to have a service that's charged.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. And I would point out that a lot of potholes are being fixed, and as much work as can be done in this weather is being done on the roads. Okay, so do we have
I move the report be noted.
Thank you, and thank you. Those in favour? I think it's
Councillor Ingram. Thank you.
Yes,
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. All right, we turn to 13.1, request for information from Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Ingram.
The question I asked, the first question was, when did the footpath works take place in Harden? And the works I was referring to, and I put it in brackets in the question on notice so that everyone would be aware, it was the work Councillor Stadmel explained to staff at the September meeting that no one knew anything about. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines there, reply. The only issue I have, you haven't answered my question. My question was, when did the footpath works take place? Now, there's an explanation there about how it came about that I can't recall ever been involved in that conversation, but anyway, my memory's not that good, but okay, I accept that. That's fine. And that's great. But it doesn't answer the question, when did the footpath works take place?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the footpath works took place in July this year.
Wouldn't it have been simple just to put that in the answer?
I'm sure it was an oversight.
Acknowledge, Councillor. we misinterpreted the question. We're trying to find out the,
How can you
process
misinterpret when did the footpath? Anyway, okay, thank you. Asked and answered. I'm pleased to see that was in this financial year, seeing that we'd been told the funding came out of this financial year, and given that the other part was 2.5 years ago, I had some concerns about that, but I'll follow that up. Thank you. The question I asked in regard to the stormwater in relation to flooding in the Young CBD, which I mentioned at, I tried to mention at the last council meeting and got roused on from wanting to mention and ask where the $8.1 million that we've been granted is, where it's sitting, given concerns about funding being withdrawn, and anyone who took any notice of the budget earlier in the week, I'm pretty sure you can be sure of one thing, that if the federal government can find any projects and money they've handed out that's not been dealt with and done properly, they're going to ask for it back, and they won't be giving it back again. So that $8.1 million is there. The next part of the question was what's been spent and how has it been spent? No budget has been expended on this project to date. I made a note saying so nothing done. So can I please have an update now of where that project, that long-running project, is at?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have recently received the deed. PWA, the Public Works Authority, is actually doing the work. They will be project managing it, and our role would be the co-contribution, and we will be heavily involved in the project management. That work has not commenced because we're waiting for the deed. We've recently received it, and it will be for the General Manager's signature to finalise that deed, and then the works can commence. It was a time that PWA needed to give that information to us.
Thank you. We'll monitor that closely. Appreciate that. And the third question that was asked and answered, it's finally been answered. I wouldn't have thought it was that hard, but it's answered. There it is, and it says the planning of the work is currently underway. What stage of the planning are we up to in regard to that question? Please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will take that on notice, Councillor Ingram.
Mr. General Manager, we were advised recently that it would be preferred if we asked questions on notice to give staff the adequate time to prepare an answer and inform councillors. 3 questions I asked. First one was pretty simple. Explanation given, no answer till tonight, which is I appreciate. Thank you. I don't know why that couldn't have been in business paper. Stormwater answer, okay. The question was asked, and I'll take it on notice. I must express my disappointment at those type of answers, Mr. General Manager. Thank you. I take it that it's been on notice, and it'll come back no doubt next month. That'll be 4 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram.
Councillor Ingram, through you, Madam Mayor. May I just ask you, in which area are you referring to? Because we actually know of 2 areas. So one was the Back Creek, the one water main replacement into town. That was grant funded, and the other one is close to, I think it's a chicken farm just on the other side of Kingsvale. So really like to know which one you're referring to.
Might I suggest, Mr. General Manager, that staff settle with their first answer and take it on notice, given that in the answer that is given to me, as for the rehabilitation of the pavement section from Matthew Crescent south to Tierney Street to the total sum of $341,936. So that it really emphasises the point that I'm making. Wow, had nothing to do with it.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram.
Mr. General Manager, on that note, if we ask questions on notices and it comes to the business paper and staff haven't had time to put together an accurate account of their answer, please just say so. Do not keep having staff bring answers back to council that are incorrect, albeit accidentally, I understand that, but if the homework's not done and the research is not done and can't answer the questions, just say so. I don't want to have to go through a performance like that again.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I'll take that.
Righto, moving on. Oh no, we have to we have a mover and a seconder.
Councillor Ingram and
Councillor Armstrong. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. If we move to notice on motion, notice of motion by Councillor Ingram. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, my notice of motion is that Council write to the Honourable Amanda Rishworth MP, Minister for Social Services, the Honourable Justine Elliott MP, Assistant Minister for Social Services and Assistant Minister for the Prevention of Family Violence in the Government of Australia, and the Honourable Natalie Ward, MLC, New South Wales Minister for Women's Safety and the Prevention of Domestic and Sexual Violence, congratulating them on the release of the National Plan to End Violence Against Women and Children 2022-2032, and undertake a review of its integrated planning and reporting documents to ensure consideration of the actions to implement the National Plan when released. Councillors, as I stated there, I read with interest that on the 17th of October, the National Plan to End Violence Against Women and Children 2022-2032 National Plan was released as a shared vision of the Australian Government, states and territories. I have included some of the following information based on the Commonwealth of Australia Department of Social Services data. And I thought I'd touch on a few of those matters. It states the National Plan is an overarching national policy framework that will guide actions towards ending violence against women and children over the next 10 years. It highlights how all parts of society, including governments, businesses and workplaces, media, schools and educational institutions, the family, domestic and sexual violence sector, communities and all individuals must work together to achieve the shared vision of ending gender-based violence in one generation. The purpose of the National Plan, they state, violence against women and children is a problem of epidemic proportions in Australia. 1 in 3 women have experienced physical violence since the age of 15, and 1 in 5 has experienced sexual violence. Some of this data is scary. On average, a woman is killed by her intimate partner every 10 days. Rates of violence are even higher for certain groups, such as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women. All Australian governments are united in their commitment to addressing the unacceptable rates of violence in our communities. The National Plan outlines what needs to happen to achieve the vision of ending violence in one generation. This includes building the workforce and strengthening data collection systems. It also includes increasing accountability for people who choose to use violence and provide person-centred and holistic responses to support victim survivors through their recovery and healing. The National Plan sets out actions across 4 domains. Prevention, working to change the underlying social drivers of violence by addressing the attitudes and systems that drive violence against women and children to stop before it starts. Early intervention, identifying and supporting individuals who are at high risk of experiencing or perpetrating violence and prevent it from reoccurring. The response, providing services and support to address existing violence and support victim survivors experience violence, such as crisis support and police intervention, and a trauma-informed justice system that will hold people who use violence to account. recovery and healing, helping to reduce the risk of re-traumatisation, and support victim survivors to be safe and healthy to be able to recover from trauma and the physical, mental, emotional, and economic impacts of violence. The National Plan is a product of collaboration and has been developed and agreed by Commonwealth, State and Territory Ministers with responsibility for women's safety. The consultation engaged with over 3,000 individuals through various mediums, including public surveys, workshops and interviews. The National Plan reflects the valuable feedback from victim survivors, advocates, advisory groups and family, domestic and sexual violence service providers. Input was also provided from business and industry, community organisations and the general public. The National Plan builds on the first National Plan to reduce violence against women and their children, 2010 to 2022. Next steps. They say that the clear actions to implement the National Plan will be outlined in two underpinning 5-year action plans and a dedicated Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander action plan that will detail the Commonwealth, state and territory government investment and efforts towards implementation. Development of the action plan is underway, with the first 5-year action plan expected to be released in early 2023. The government has also committed to developing a future standalone First Nations National Plan to address the unacceptable high rates of violence Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women and their children experience. I ask that my fellow councillors support my motion, as this matter is one of monumental and universal importance to our society and our community.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram, and thank you for putting this motion forward.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Did we have a mover? I think that was Councillor Ingram and a seconder, Councillor Flannery. Does anybody want to talk? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say that I commend this motion by Councillor Ingram. However, I do truly believe that the changes start with us, everybody in this room, everybody that we work with, everybody that we liaise with, our families and our friends, and having the courage to call people out if they do behave in manners that you can see are in aggressive nature to somebody else or to some child. I go back to our own draft code of conduct, and I see in here under harassment is when it is not wanted by the person, offends, humiliates or intimidates the person and creates a hostile environment. It's astounding that we should be even told how to behave, but this all starts with our actions, because we are the role models. So, you know, there is a really good podcast on coercive control, and that's where people seek to control and manipulate people financially, and also through their gestures, their tone of voice, their mannerisms. So I feel like this is a great plan, and the action plan will be really, really good to see. But I do think that we are the role models, and the action and the change starts with us.
Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Anybody else like to speak for it? I'd just like to say that many of the councillors here walked in the Walk Against Violence, which sent out a really positive message to the rest of the community, saying that we don't condone any form of violence in any form. And thank you to Councillor Armstrong and also Councillor Foreman for your words. Oh, Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but I wasn't party to this, but I'll take all the credit and all the glory for it. Thank you very much for that. I do have a question, though,
Yes.
in relation to part 2 of that, undertake a review of its integrated planning and reporting documents. I'm just wondering whether that would be undertaken later in next year after the production of the budget.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the reason it's worded like that in consultation with Councillor Ingram is we don't know when they're going to release these the action items. So we tried to leave it open. Once we have those actions items, a further report will come back to council for that discussion about how we integrate the actions and what it involves.
Thank you for that. I guess what I was after was the commitment. And as long as we understand that this is a true commitment, then I'm perfectly happy.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Ingram, would you like to have the right of reply?
Well, look, I think I've spent enough time on it, and it was just that I noticed a media release, and then I was watching the ABC News, which I don't watch all that often, but I was running late, so I watched the news on ABC, and the full report was on the ABC National News, and I thought, well, violence against women and children is just at another level. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. No more comments? Nobody against? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Well, councillors, that moves us into confidential matters. Can I have a mover? Thank you. And seconder. Thank you. Councillor Ingram. All those in favour? Let's move in. And the first one.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in confidential report 12.21-22/24 Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, ARIC proposed new external independent member. It was resolved to receive and note the report and B, approve the appointment of the recommended applicant as the external independent member of ARIC. Then moving along to the next report in confidential, 15.2-22/40 sale of land for unpaid rates. It was resolved that Council A receive and note the report and B approve the write-off of rates and charges of $55,075.08 as detailed in the attachment to the report. 15.3 energy 15.3-22/41 energy supply contract sourcing. It was resolved that Council A receive and note the report on energy supply sourcing. B, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding of the contract of RFT 627 of 2022, energy supply for small sites, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of the contract RFT 628 of 2022, supply for contestable sites and street lighting. The next report that was considered was 15.4, and it was resolved by Council that A, they receive and note the report on RFT 621 of 2022 winning and crushing gravel panel. B, appoint the successful tenderer to the panel contract number RFT 621 of 2022 winning and crushing gravel. D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all the necessary documentation associated with this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. And D, work not be awarded to one panel member until complete costings are brought back to Council for its consideration. At 15.5 report, 22/43 fleet and plant replacement. It was resolved by Council to receive and note the report on plant and vehicle replacement. Report 15.6 22/44 RFQ 622 of 2022 supply and disposal of 5 axle dog trailers. Council did not, the motion was lost in relation to that report. At 15.7 -22/45 RFT 623 of 2022, supply and disposal of 4 gravel trucks. That motion was also lost. 15.8 15.8-22/46 RFT 624 of 2022, supply and delivery of 2 water trucks. Council resolved to note and endorse the purchase of 2 Hino FM 2632 water trucks and the trade value of the 2 water trucks, and B, delegate to the General Manager the authority to execute all necessary documentation associated with accepting this tender. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. GM, and thank you, councillors. And I will declare this meeting closed at 8:38. So thank you for your attendance at this fairly long